Hi there, folks on YouTube, and hi there, folks on Facebook as well. Evening, ladies and gents, and non binary people and folks. So it's The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. Um, let's just dive into it. I won't give some introduction. I think I've spoken about the other chef d'oeuvre of Ayn Rand, which is what was the title? I think I've made another live on the other book. What was the title? I can't recall right now. Anyway, so it's a very short part from the audiobook. It's about the self and the selflessness. Let's just go through it, analyze it, and then make some exchange of ideas. Okay.
What have you been thinking about these past weeks? The principle behind the dean who fired me from Stanton. What principle?
So just so it is clear, the principle behind the dean who fired me. The dean is it's actually a title at the university. The chief, the most important guy at the university. The hero, uh, Howard Rourke, was expelled from the university. He didn't graduate because the dean decided that he was not a good student. All right, that's just it. Let's move
The
on.
thing that is destroying the world? The thing you were talking? The principle behind the dean who fired me from Stanton. What principle? The thing that is destroying the world? The thing you were talking about? Actual selflessness. The ideal which they say does not exist. They're wrong. It does exist. Though not in the way they imagine. It's what I couldn't understand about people for a long time. They have no self. They live within others. They live secondhand. Look at Peter Keating. You look at him. I hate his guts. I've looked at him. At what's left of him. And it's helped me to understand. He's paying the price and wondering for what sin and telling himself that he's been too selfish. In what act or thought of his has there ever been a self? What was his aim in life? Greatness. In other people's eyes. Fame, admiration, envy. All that which comes from others. Others dictated his convictions, which he did not hold. But he was satisfied that others believed he held them. Others were his motive power and his prime concern. He didn't want to be great, but to be thought great. He didn't want to build, but to be admired as a builder. He borrowed from others in order to make an impression on others. There's your actual selflessness. It's his ego that he's betrayed and given up. But everybody calls him selfish. That's the pattern most people follow.
Yeah, that's it.
Convictions which he did not hold. Way they imagine. It's what I couldn't listeners who fired me from Stanton. Like, I hope so, Gail.
Yeah, that's it. There are passages which feel pretty powerful that appeal to me as a listener. So this is one of those passages. Those who want to make a good exercise out of this can pause the video right now. After the live is over, it will be possible. So just pause the video and go back and try to listen to it again and try to understand as much as you can. Okay, that will be an excellent exercise, and you can type like whatever you are able to understand and just send it as a comment. Just leave it under this video. Okay, that's it, and then we'll discuss. So right now I'm going to analyze the passage. So if you want to make a good use out of this as an exercise for your listening, I just gave you a fun thing to do with this content. So go ahead. Okay, don't watch this passage before you have done this exercise. All right, right now I'm going just to explain what is happening in this passage.
What have you been thinking about these past weeks? The principal behind the dean who fired me from Stanton.
So, what have you been thinking about during these last weeks? They are in an ocean, in a yacht, and they have been away for a couple of weeks or maybe 3 weeks. It's just two of them, two guys, very good friends. A great, well, yeah, no, I will just not comment on that for now. So the principle behind the dean that fired me, Howard is saying. So there's a principle, and he's going to elaborate on that principle. What does he mean?
What principle?
What principle?
The thing that is destroying the world? The thing you.
So the thing that is destroying the world, that's quite a statement, actually. This is Ayn Rand, classical Ayn Rand. She's very, very strong about her opinions, her political and social and cultural opinions. So the thing that is destroying the world,
We're talking about actual selflessness.
actual selflessness. So actual selflessness is destroying the world. The hero of the book says.
The ideal which they say does not exist. They're wrong. It does exist. Though not in the way they imagine. It's what I couldn't understand about people for a long time. They have no self. They live within others. They live secondhand.
So they have no self, they live within others, they live second hand. These lines are very powerful. I'm almost getting goosebumps. Right now, there is a very interesting thing happening to my body as I'm uttering these words in terms of energy. So it's very powerful. People live through others, they give away, they renounce their ego, their self. It's actual selflessness. Let's hear it again.
And look at Peter Keating. You look at him. I hate his guts. I've looked at him, at what's left of him, and it's helped me to understand. He's paying the price and wondering for what sin and telling himself that he's been too selfish.
So, Peter Keating is another hero, another architect. One of those guys, these guys is an architect too. So, Peter Keating has been cheating all the time. He was very concerned with what others think of him and how others perceive him. So he was especially careful about impressions, and he wanted to understand what would people that surrounded him would approve in him, what type of actions they would like, or what sort of words they would like to hear from him. So Peter has been living for others, and they are renouncing it. They are criticizing that type of selfless lifestyle.
In what act or thought of his has there ever been a self? What was his aim in life? Greatness.
In what act or thought of him has there ever been a self? Well, that's an interesting question. So, what's the purpose of his life? It's greatness.
In
However,
other people's eyes.
greatness
Fame,
in
admiration.
others, greatness in other people's eyes. It's not even greatness per se, it's not greatness itself, but greatness in the eyes of others.
Envy. which comes from others. Others dictated his convictions, which he did not hold. But
Others dictated his convictions, which he did not hold. His beliefs, his values, his convictions were dictated or created by others.
he was satisfied that others believed he held them. Others were his motive power and his prime concern.
Peter Keating was satisfied that others believed that he held these convictions.
He didn't want to be great, but to be thought great.
He
He
didn't
didn't
want to
want to
be great, but to be thought great.
build, but to be admired as a builder. He borrowed from others in order to make an impression on others. There's your actual self.
He borrowed from others to make an impression on others. That's an interesting thought, actually. Like we ask people around us, what do you think? What's your idea of this? Da, 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 da. And then when we learn what they think, some people try to adjust to those people and try to leave a positive impression or not to give away their real values and ideas to make these other people think that they are on the same lines, so to speak. On the same line, they are holding the same values.
Lessness. It's his ego that he's betrayed and given up. But everybody calls him selfish.
It's his ego that he betrayed and given up. So, Ayn Rand has a very interesting concept. She has called it rational self interest. She advocates for rational self interest. The author, Ayn Rand, says that you shouldn't give away your individuality, you shouldn't give away your ego, and you shouldn't try to live a selfless life because, well, she would say it's a crime against life, it's a crime against nature, against the universe. So yeah, this is the passage that I wanted us to listen to together. And right now, I'm just going to share some of my thoughts, and I'll be happy to hear your thoughts, to hear from you. What what is your stance on this topic? So, I've been thinking lately about this concept of self, and I've gone through, in the past, I've gone through some different philosophies, especially Eastern philosophies, like different schools of Hinduism, different schools of Buddhism, Advaita Vedanta, um, Samkhya philosophy. So there are very, very different schools of thought. Um, and it's very interesting how to ponder upon these values, these things that make life possible. I don't know how to call them actually. So I'm going to share with you something that has been manifesting itself in my head. One could say maybe Ayn Rand has helped me to formulate those ideas in my head in the past few weeks. So we have objects, and I would say that my body is an object itself. hmm? So what makes any type of object possible? A notebook, a power bank for my smartphones and other devices, a lighter. It's gravity. So gravity is everywhere. Like the planet exists thanks to gravity, right? Thanks to gravity, we have this huge planet. And we have any type of object, again, thanks to gravity, huh? Whatever it is, a box, an iPad, whatever. So every single object has a gravity on its own. So in some language, we would call it a gravity. In another dialect or in another language, we would call it love or God. Or we could call it ego. So this is the concept. The concept of the ego I'm talking about right now is a bit different, and I'm trying to give words to my thoughts for the first time. Okay, so it's not easy, but it's fun. So ego makes everything possible. Um, if the center of gravity of this object was not in itself, this object wouldn't exist as it is. This object would be a part of something else. For instance, I have a finger. I can move my finger, I can control it. However, my finger is a part of my hand, right? I have fingers, but they are a part of something else. They are part of my hand, of my arm, right? So, uh, how to put it? It's gravity, it's ego that makes objects possible, whatever it is. The ego or the gravity or the center of existence is inside each and every object that exists. So, if we think in these terms, then there is no such thing as selflessness. If there is something that has no self, then that something doesn't really exist. However, whatever exists has some type of ego or some type of center. This is, of course, different from the Western and from the materialistic way of thought. But on the other hand, I would call it an interesting flavor of materialism. If we go deep into it, um, yeah, so I would agree with Ayn Rand and with her heroes, with Howard Rourke in this respect, because I've been thinking about it, I've been feeling it in some way, that ego is everywhere, even the sunflower. Why does the sunflower move its head towards the sun throughout the day? Because the plant has a sense of me, a sense of self. huh? I am this plant, this is my head, and I need to follow the sun throughout the day. Um, if the plant didn't have a sense of self, what would the plant move? How would the plant move or behave? It wouldn't. See, my finger doesn't have a life of its own. It's my brain and my body that tells my fingers what to do. mm? Because I have a sense of self within me. I decide for my fingers. So if the sunflower plant decides what to do and when, and based on uh, some conditions, some external conditions, then the plant possibly has a sense of self. Mm? Right. Mm. These topics are not easy to discuss, so I tried to be as clear as possible. If you have any questions, be my guest. and share your own thoughts and ideas around the topic of selfishness or egotism and selflessness. Mm? A lot of religions talk about selflessness. Christianity, for instance, they ask us to sacrifice our egotism or our egocentrism and to be more altruistic. So if you go through the books of Ayn Rand, she's very much against this type of altruism. And we'll be discussing some other passages from this book of her. And see you then. Have a great evening, everyone. Up, we say goodbye to YouTube and we say goodbye to Facebook.